WordPress has changed a lot in the last few years. If you've been around in the WordPress game, you may have noticed a shift towards things like the block editor, full site editing, and almost a move away from PHP. Everything's going mostly JavaScript. There's HTML templates. What about ACF? What about Elementor? Are these still viable strategies? What should I be doing in 2023? I'm going to try my best to answer those questions in this video. So the first thing that I want to say is that I have extensive experience building WordPress sites with ACF. That was the way that I built them for a very long time. Like you'd have a PHP template, you'd have your ACF field groups. You would use those to output various pieces of post meta, maybe using flexible layouts to kind of make like your own custom page builder kind of situation. The difference, of course, there being is that you don't have any preview output. You just have to like save the post or preview the post and look at it, that kind of thing, but nothing as you were editing it, really. So I did that for many, many years. And then when I moved to working at 10up about a year and a half ago, basically 2 jobs ago, there I was learning a lot about the block editor. And at 10up, they exclusively use the block editor. There's no ACF layouts. They don't use page builder plugins or any of that kind of stuff. It's just all the block editor. Not even full site editing yet, I believe, even as of the recording of this video. Now, before, even when I was doing ACF things, I'd still set up the occasional Elementor, Visual Composer, Beaver Builder site. There's always some kind of page builder that you inevitably need to work on, especially when you work at an agency. There's lots of different retainers, all kinds of different options. All of these things are viable strategies, but like really, what's the main difference between them? A thing like ACF, building things like that these days, is really more of a developer convenience than anything about a user convenience. I know that's the type of thing that might upset some people to hear, but I think if we're honest with ourselves, the reason why most developers build things that way is because it gives them the most overall certainty and control, which is cool, but doesn't necessarily translate directly into real world user value, especially when you consider the way that most ACF layouts are stored in post meta. It can be a lot of post meta, a lot of different keys, and at a certain threshold of content, like if those rows for the post meta and they have like a ton of different data inside them, that's going to start to make things really slow, even if you have various optimizations in place, because it's just a lot of fucking data. And that's something that you need to keep in mind if you're the type of person that says, oh, well, I would never stop using ACF layouts. The thing I would encourage you to take away from this video is you probably should. You should probably consider moving towards a pure block editor based layout. One of the big reasons for this is you're able to accomplish most of the same types of things that you would with post meta, except doing so directly inside the block editor. In the block editor, everything gets included inside post_content, but it gets parsed at the time for render, and that's where you get all your different markup from. Instead of having a series of post meta keys that you then have to query and look up and you do all this SQL to fetch, you get everything out of one place. It's able to be cached and optimized with a full page cache. There's a litany of benefits. So what about Elementor though? I know a lot of people, especially on WordPress Twitter, that are or X, whatever they call it these days. There's always somebody on there who's going to go, oh, Elementor is the greatest in all these things, right? And I'm not here to tell you that using a thing like Elementor or the Elementor Hello theme is inherently bad, because for a certain type of website, maybe that's beneficial. Maybe you have an agency where you have like 10 or 12 people that are all really experienced doing things with Elementor, and you're all in on Elementor, and it saves you a lot of time and saves your clients this, that, and the other. I would argue, though, that as of 2023, you should be, again, transitioning towards doing a block editor, or even, depending on the scope of what you're doing, a full site editing setup. If not right now, gearing up to replace your current workflow with those things will ensure that you're still current, even into the years that follow. The block editor is not going away. So at a certain point, you're going to have to decide, are we going to push a third-party editing solution that costs us money, is a separate thing that requires its own support, has its own cache, and a ton of front-end performance mechanisms that are different, again, than WordPress core. Hope all of that just jams in perpetuity and base your entire business around that. I'm not sure that that's a safe bet. Maybe it is for some folks. Maybe they have a really high degree of confidence in that, and that's not a risk that they would identify. But I think that if you can build things as close to the native WordPress core as possible, that's where you're going to get the fastest performance. That's where you're going to get the most stability, least amount of bugs, etc. So in 2023, right now, if you're the type of person who says, well, I haven't wanted to dive into the block editor yet for X, Y, and Z reason, this is the time. The block editor is at the point now where it's stable. It's good to learn. There's no real reason you shouldn't be trying to learn and skill up in the block editor. Full site editing, though, I would say, depending on the type of sites you build, you might want to hold off on that until the feature gets a little bit more polished. I would anticipate that within the next year and a half, the full site editing feature or now site editor, I should say, is going to be ready for prime time. And it's probably the type of thing that most of the low code, no code folks out there, like if you're trying to use a thing like Elementor, pop some CSS, maybe a little bit of JS in there, and then you're good to go. That's really the direction you should be moving. It's going to get you closer to core, better performance, better SEO, even in some cases. And overall, it's going to be just a better experience for your users. They're going to pull up their website and it's going to work like the vast majority of other websites, not be just the way you happen to have set it up or someone happened to have set it up. I hope this gives some of you out there a little bit more direction and confidence on pursuing the block editor for your WordPress dev journey and getting more familiar with that. And I'm really excited to see all the neat things that all the folks who are still building things the old way, once they can apply their intellect and their programming skill into making new things, I mean, who knows what we'll achieve. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, give me a comment or like the video and subscribe to the channel for more WordPress development content.